Alright, hold on tight, cause I'm about to spill the tea on this epic story that goes down in high school. It's got drama, secrets, and a whole lot of teenage angst. So grab some popcorn and let's dive in. The grand ballroom was decked out in gold and glitz, looking like a scene straight out of some posh royal flick. A ginormous chandelier hung from the ceiling, sparkling like a million diamonds. All the school's elite were there, gossiping and flexing their fashion game. Everyone was sipping on sparkling apple cider, pretending it was champagne, and trying to act all sophisticated. Amidst the chatter, I overheard some juicy gossip about Viscountess Ferdy. Word on the street was that her in-laws were throwing shade at her for not having a kid. They were even pushing the Viscount to get a side chick. Oh my, can you believe that? And to top it off, there was this buzz that maybe the Viscount himself was the one with the baby-making issues, not her. The whole place was buzzing with whispers. It was like a real-life soap opera. I nudged my bestie Jess, who was busy admiring her reflection in the gold-rimmed mirror. Hey, did you hear about Viscountess Ferdy's drama? Her in-laws are like total control freaks. Jess rolled her eyes. Girl, tell me about it. I've been married for 5 years, and my in-laws still act like I'm a walking fashion disaster. They check what I wear every morning like it's some national security issue. I couldn't help but laugh. Seriously, that's insane. It's like once you get married, you enter this whole other world where your in-laws are the ultimate bosses. No kidding, Jess sighed. And it's not like we're just nobodies. We're nobles too, but they always gotta show who's boss. Just then, the DJ switched the music to a slow dance track, and couples started pairing off. Jess and I found a spot by the punch bowl, trying to avoid the awkward slow dance invites. Out of the blue, a dude with a crown and a serious face approached us. It was Prince Lucas, the school's royal heartthrob. Your Highness, you're rather quiet today, I teased, giving him a playful nudge. How long's it been since you got hitched? A year. He blinked, looking a bit lost. Oh, wait, it's already been a year. Man, time flies. Jess smirked. Yeah, and how's Madame Gloria, your mother-in-law? Still running the show? Lucas sighed dramatically. Still as bossy as ever. And yeah, His Grace, the Grand Duke, is still keeping his distance. Oh, and my sister-in-law, Lady Sowers. She's as dramatic as ever. It's like living in a never-ending drama series. Before we could dig for more details, a loud, commanding voice boomed across the room. F-O-E-N-D-U-O-U-M-I-A-N-G-E-L. It was Grand Duke 30O, swooping in like some superhero looking for his wife. Your Grace, Lady Sowers gasped. I've been looking all over for you. He pulled her into a tight embrace. Losing sight of you for even a moment makes me so anxious I can hardly breathe. Lady Sowers giggled, trying to wriggle free. That tickles. Please let go. People are watching. Their kid, a tiny version of the Duke, hiked up. Mommy says you're tickling her. Please get off her now. Everyone around us was either gawking or rolling their eyes. The whole scene was so extra, it was like watching a live telenovela. The Duke's sister-in-law, Lady Sowers, stepped in with a disapproving glare. Very undignified, Theo. The whole ballroom was buzzing with murmurs. People were talking behind their hands, trying to figure out what was going on. What's all that racket? This is supposed to be a dignified ball, for Pete's sake, one old lady huffed. Suddenly, the crowd parted like the Red Sea, and in walked Grand Duchess Gloria, looking as regal as ever despite her age. She sighed heavily. Oh, it's exhausting coming to these things at my age. No, but you look as hale and hearty as ever, Your Grace, someone complimented. She waved it off. Everyone trembles like some scared dog whenever I make an appearance. There's no reason for any of that. After all, I'm just an old lady. The ball continued with more gossip and drama. I couldn't help but think, man, high school drama's got nothing on this royal mess. I spotted Lady Parashatti who seemed deep in thought. Her family was obsessed with her, which was a problem. She needed out, and fast. The night was full of whispers and side-eye glances. Prince Lucas caught up with me and Jess again. So, you two enjoying the ball? He asked, trying to sound casual. Yeah, if by enjoying you mean soaking up all the drama, I replied with a grin. It's like a live-action soap opera. Lucas chuckled. You have no idea. By the way, did you see Lady Parashati? She's been acting all mysterious lately. Jess and I exchanged glances. Really? Spill the tea, Lucas? He leaned in, lowering his voice. Rumor has it, she's planning something big. I'd heard she's gonna propose to the Grand Duke 30. I nearly choked on my punch. What? That's insane. Lucas nodded. I know, right? But she's desperate. Her in-laws are driving her nuts, and she thinks marrying the Grand Duke might save her. Jess raised an eyebrow. But isn't he like, super intimidating and kind of a recluse? Exactly, Lucas said, which is why it's such a big deal. She's betting everything on this. Just then, the music changed to a faster beat, and the ballroom erupted into a lively dance. Lucas offered his hand to Jess, and they joined the dance floor. I watched them for a bit before deciding to get some fresh air. I stepped out onto the balcony, the cool night breeze hitting my face. It was a nice break from the stuffy ballroom. As I looked out over the garden, I heard footsteps behind me. Need some air too. It was Lady Parashati, looking as stressed as ever. Yeah, I replied, giving her a sympathetic smile. These balls can be a bit much. She sighed, leaning against the railing. Tell me about it. Sometimes I wish I could just disappear. I raised an eyebrow. Sounds pretty serious. Anything you want to talk about? She hesitated for a moment before nodding. Actually, yeah, I'm planning to propose to the Grand Duke. My jaw dropped. Wait, Lucas was serious. You really are going for it? She nodded, looking determined. I have to. My in-laws are suffocating me, and this is my only way out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But isn't he, like, super scary? She chuckled dryly. He is, but that's why it's perfect. He won't be interested in me as a woman. He needs a second wife to avoid marrying a princess, and I need protection. It's a win-win. I admired her courage. Wow, you've really thought this through. But are you sure this is what you want? She looked out into the night, her expression hardening. It's not about what I want. It's about survival. The next day at school, the gossip mill was in overdrive. Word about Lady Parashati's bold move had spread like wildfire. Everyone was talking about it, and the tension was palpable. During lunch, I met up with Jess and Lucas in our usual spot under the big oak tree. So, did you guys hear the latest? Lucas asked, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Obviously, Jess replied, rolling her eyes. It's all anyone can talk about. I nodded. Yeah, and I ran into Parashati last night. She's dead serious about this. Lucas whistled. Man, I can't believe she's actually doing it. The Grand Duke is gonna flip. Jess shrugged. Or maybe he'll be intrigued. Who knows? This school is full of surprises. Later that afternoon, we had a surprise assembly. Everyone filed into the auditorium, buzzing with curiosity. Principal Anderson stepped up to the podium, looking unusually serious. Students, we have an important announcement, he began. As you all know, our school has a rich history and a unique student body. Today, we have a special guest who will be addressing you all. The curtains behind him parted, revealing none other than the Grand Duke 30 Lapillion himself. The room went dead silent. Greetings, he said, his deep voice echoing through the hall. I understand there's been quite a bit of talk about me recently. A few students exchanged nervous glances. The Duke continued, I've come to address these rumors and set the record straight. He looked directly at Lady Parashati, who was sitting in the front row, her face pale but determined. Lady Parashati Zahart has indeed approached me with a proposal, and after much consideration, I have decided to accept. The room erupted into whispers and gasps. Parashati looked both relieved and shocked. However, the Duke added, raising his hand for silence, this marriage will be for 1 year only, as requested. After that, we will part ways amicably. I could see the gears turning in everyone's heads as they processed this bomb. The ball proposal. A year of schemes and second chances. It was a hella cold winter evening when Parashati Zahart found herself standing in front of the Grand Duke's mansion. The colossal building loomed over her like an intimidating mountain, and she felt a mix of nerves and determination bubbling inside her. She took a deep breath, clutching the letter in her hand. This was it, the moment she'd been preparing for since her world turned upside down. Parashati, or Shasha as her close friends called her, was just your average girl from a count's family. Nothing fancy, nothing dramatic. Life was good until her parents passed away, leaving her under the care of her seemingly supportive stepmother and stepsister. Her boyfriend, Shif, was her rock, always there for her, or so she thought. One night, everything changed. Shasha was cornered by Shif and her stepmother, who revealed their true colors. They wanted her dead to claim her fortune. Shif wasn't her loving boyfriend, he was just a puppet in their twisted game. Shasha felt her world crumble as they cursed her, leaving her immobilized and on the brink of death. She could still hear her stepmother's cruel words, "Please die. Only then will your fortune come to me." But Shasha didn't die. She woke up in her bed, gasping for breath, heart pounding like a bass drum at a concert. At first, she thought it was a nightmare, but everything felt too real. The memories, the betrayal, it all haunted her like a bad trip. That's when she realized she had somehow traveled back in time to the day before the betrayal. Shasha saw this as a second chance, a rare opportunity to change her fate. But she needed help. She needed someone powerful enough to protect her and her inheritance. That's when she set her sights on Grand Duke Thirdio Lapillion. Shasha stood in the grand ballroom of the Duke's mansion, her heart racing as she spotted the Grand Duke himself across the room. He was tall, with an aura of authority that made everyone around him seem insignificant. She straightened her back, took a deep breath, and approached him. "Your Grace, I've come to make a proposal," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. The Grand Duke raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued but also skeptical. "A proposal? This is rather abrupt." Shasha nodded, trying to keep her composure. "Please marry me for a year, just 1 year. I need your protection." Thirdio looked at her, his piercing gaze making her feel like he could see right through her. "Why should I agree to such a proposal?" She took a deep breath, ready to lay it all out. "My in-laws are obsessed with my fortune. They tried to kill me and they will do it again. I need time to gather my strength and protect myself. In return, I'll offer you any part of my inheritance." There was a moment of silence, the ballroom's buzz fading into the background as the Grand Duke considered her words. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. You have 1 year, Pareshati Zahart." Shasha let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. This was the start of her new life. Back in the day, high school drama was nothing compared to the twisted royal schemes Shasha had to navigate now. She moved into the Grand Duke's estate, where every day was a challenge. The Duke's family was as complex as a season final of Riverdale. First, there was the Grand Duchess Gloria, Thirdio's grandmother. She was a tough old lady, but surprisingly, she warmed up to Shasha. Then there was Lady Sowers, Thirdio's sister-in-law, who was always up in everyone's business. And lastly, there was little Celphius, Thirdio's son, who took a liking to Shasha immediately. Shasha spent her days learning about estate management, preparing for the inevitable showdown with her stepmother and Shif. She trained in self-defense, determined not to be a helpless damsel in distress again. Thirdio, true to his word, provided her with protection and resources. One day, as Shasha was practicing archery in the estate's garden, Thirdio approached her. "You're improving," he noted, watching as she hit the target dead center. "Thanks," Shasha said, lowering her bow. "I need to be ready." Thirdio nodded. "You will be. But remember, you're not alone in this." Shasha smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you, Your Grace." Months passed and Shasha grew stronger and more confident. She and Thirdio developed a mutual respect and, dare she say, friendship. She no longer felt like a prisoner of her past, but she knew the day of reckoning was approaching. One evening, as Shasha and Thirdio were having dinner, a servant rushed in, breathless. "My lady, there's an urgent message for you." Shasha took the letter, her hands trembling slightly. It was from her stepmother, demanding a meeting. Shasha knew this was it, the final showdown. Thirdio looked at her, his expression serious. "You don't have to face them alone." Shasha shook her head. "No, I need to do this. But thank you." The next day, Shasha arrived at her family's estate, Thirdio's guards flanking her. Her stepmother and Shif were there, their smug expressions making her blood boil. Well, if it isn't the little heiress," her stepmother sneered. "Finally decided to face us." Shasha stood tall, her voice steady. I know everything. Your plan, your betrayal. It ends now. Shiv laughed. And what are you going to do about it, Shasha? You're just a powerless girl. But Shasha wasn't powerless anymore. She had allies, she had skills, and most importantly, she had the truth on her side. Actually, I'm not alone, Shasha said, stepping aside to reveal Thirdio and his guards. And I'm not afraid of you anymore. Her stepmother's face paled as the realization hit her. Shiv looked like he wanted to bolt, but Thirdio's guards blocked his way. This is your last chance, Thirdio said, his voice cold and commanding. Leave Parashati alone, or face the consequences. Shasha's stepmother and Shiv exchanged panicked glances. They knew they were outmatched. Fine, her stepmother spat, glaring at Shasha. You win this time. But remember, we'll be watching. Shasha watched as they slunk away, a weight lifting off her shoulders. She turned to Thirdio, gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you. Thirdio smiled, a rare sight. You did it yourself, Shasha. I just gave you the means. The year passed in a blur of training, learning, and growing. Shasha became a force to be reckoned with, her confidence shining brighter each day. When the year was up, she met with Thirdio to discuss their next steps. I fulfilled my part of the bargain, Thirdio said, though there was a hint of something more in his eyes. What will you do now? Shasha smiled, feeling a sense of freedom she hadn't felt in a long time. I think I'll stay. I've found a home here, and I'm not ready to leave it yet. Thirdio nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. Then stay. You're always welcome here. As Shasha looked around at her new family, she knew she'd made the right choice. She had turned her nightmare into a new beginning, and she wasn't going to let anything or anyone take that away from her. In the end, Shasha learned that life was full of unexpected twists, but with determination, courage, and a little help from friends, she could overcome anything. And as she stood beside Thirdio, ready to face whatever came next, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. And that's the tea on Parashati's A Heart's Wild Year. From betrayal and curses to alliances and newfound strength, Shasha's journey was anything but ordinary. But through it all, she discovered her own power and found a place where she truly belonged. Shasha's year. Drama, love, and revenge. Alright, so I'm totally freaking out. There I was, standing outside the Grand Duke's massive castle, feeling my heart race like I'd just run 5 miles in heels. This wasn't just any ordinary day. This was the day everything was gonna change. I needed help, and Thirdio Lapillion, the Grand Duke, was my last hope. Okay, Shasha, you got this, I whispered to myself, clutching the crumpled letter in my sweaty palm. Just breathe and walk in. The Lapillions were legendary. They helped the late emperor back in the day, making the Castor Empire the big deal it is now. Naturally, they got the first Grand Dukedom. Thirdio Lapillion, the current Grand Duke, was infamous. Known as the bloodthirsty war fiend, he'd led his knights to victory and struck fear into everyone's hearts. And here I was about to ask him to marry me. No big deal, right? ##### episode 2. The bloodthirsty war fiend. So, here's the tea. Our empire was fighting this intense war against the kingdom of Schwartz. Everyone thought we had it in the bag, but it turns out, Schwartz was tougher than we thought. The war dragged on, people got tired, and hope was fading. Then bam! Grand Duke Thirdio and his knights rolled up from their distant dukedom and crushed Schwartz like it was nothing. The whole empire was like, wow, this dude is a legend. But Thirdio, he just showed up in the capital, blood-soaked and terrifying, then dipped without even hitting the victory party. People were shook. They started calling him the bloodthirsty war fiend. #### marriage proposal. I finally got an audience with him. He looked at me with those cold, intimidating eyes, and I almost lost my nerve. Marriage, he said, raising an eyebrow. I only agreed to see you out of curiosity. Why should I marry you? I took a deep breath. Because I need your help. My family, they're trying to kill me and take my fortune. I have no one else to turn to. He sighed, clearly not buying it. I understand your worry after being named heir to your father's fortune, but I assure you, nothing bad will happen. Now, be gone. Desperate, I grabbed his arm. Please. My ring scratched him, and I saw a tiny bead of blood. Oh no, what have I done? I'm sorry, I stammered, pulling back. I didn't mean to. Thirdio looked at me, annoyed. Any further conversation with you is just a waste of time. Leave. I panicked. But Your Grace, I know you're in need of a second wife. That caught his attention. And how do you know that? I had to play my cards right. I hear His Majesty is pushing for your marriage to a princess. If you don't marry me, you'll have to marry the 7th princess, who's still a child. Are you okay with that? Therdio's eyes narrowed. How do you know all this? I couldn't tell him I'd lived this before. Your Grace has need of me? Just for 1 year. Then we'll divorce, no strings attached. I promise. Rejected and desperate. Thirdio sighed. His Majesty wants me to marry the 4th princess, not the 7th. And I am not a man known for my patience. I do not repeat myself. Leave. He started to walk away, and I felt my heart drop. What now? I couldn't let this chance slip away. Please, I shouted, but my vision blurred, and I felt dizzy. No, not again. Flashback to betrayal. It all came flooding back. My stepmother and stepsister grinning as Schiff, the man I thought loved me, told me to die. They wanted my fortune. They cursed me, left me to die, and I had. Back to reality. I jolted back to the present, heart racing. I was back. I had another chance. But what if Thirdio still refused? What if my stepmother and stepsister were already plotting against me? I had to be careful. I had to find a way to stay safe until I was strong enough to protect myself. The deal? Thirdio stopped and turned back to me. Why should I trust you? I swallowed hard. Because you need me as much as I need you. Marry me for a year, and you won't have to marry a princess you don't want. We both get what we want. He studied me, and for a moment, I thought he might agree. But then he shook his head. No, leave. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Please, Your Grace, I have no one else. He turned away, and I felt my world crumble. But then he paused. 1 year. I nodded eagerly. 1 year, no strings attached. The agreement. Thirdio sighed. Fine. 1 year, but you must keep your end of the bargain. No strings attached. I couldn't believe it. He agreed. I wiped my tears and nodded. Thank you, Your Grace. I promise I won't let you down. 1 year later. A year flew by in a blur. Living with Thirdio was intense. He was cold, distant, but he kept his word. My stepmother and stepsister tried everything to get to me, but with Thirdio's protection, they couldn't touch me. I learned a lot that year. I grew stronger, smarter, more determined. And somewhere along the way, I realized something. I didn't just need Thirdio's protection. I needed him, and I hoped, maybe, just maybe, he needed me too. The decision. As our year came to an end, I knew I had to make a decision. Walk away as we'd agreed, or fight for something more. I chose to fight. Confrontation. On our last day, I stood before Thirdio, heart pounding. Your Grace, I know our agreement is up, but I can't walk away. I've fallen for you. Thirdio's eyes softened for the first time. And I for you, Shasha, but our enemies are still out there. I smiled. Then we fight together. As partners. As equals. New beginnings. Thirdio took my hand, and we faced the future together. Stronger, united, ready to take on whatever came our way. My past was behind me, and with Thirdio by my side, my future was brighter than ever.